So I want to highlight that the basic income is a lump sum transfer. And from a welfare economics perspective, a good thing because prices are not disturbed. So currently, in the status quo, what we pretty often observe with respect to distribution, and that's the topic of this lecture, distribution. In the status quo, what we typically observe that in a two-good model, for example, we can show that with the indifference curve, depends on these two goods, that we make something what we think is important for people, let's say housing or commuting or whatever, culture, theater visits, and so on and so on. What we think is important for people that they have access to, we make it cheaper for those people. Make it cheaper. And if you make it cheaper, then we distort prices. So in a simple model where you have here the relative prices, which is just the slope of the budget line, and you are of course familiar with that model. The budget is expenditures for good 1 plus expenditures for good 2, and that's the budget, and the relative prices are here. And if you change these relative prices, then we immediately introduce a dead weight loss. However, if we don't do that, and we organize distribution differently by giving a basic income to all individuals, then what do we do here? Well, we just change the endowment, we change the income. You see that, right? And if we do that, what happens in the model, let me draw it here once again. So if this is the original budget line, then that just shifts the budget line outwards by delta B. So that's, well, here in the model, it's just that shift, right? So the basic income is a shift parameter of budget line, shifting the budget line outwards, and prices, that's the main point, right? Prices are unchanged. Relative prices are unchanged, so the slope here is minus P1, P2, as you know. And that's an advantage, right? Because then people make decisions on a higher income level for unchanged prices. Well, maybe you think about that. That's maybe a new perspective on that based on welfare economics. The basic income is a lump sum transfer. And if you go one step further and say, well, maybe that's something we should think about, then you end up in how to finance that. And the previous video was on let's broaden the view how to finance that in order to keep the damage of financing as small as possible, or in other words, to minimize that weight loss. And then we have a total surplus which is pretty close to that of the competitive world.